The way it is, I'll have it as presented, and if council is in favor of that being defeated.
Yeah, and only because of our conversation always at the table, if people ask for things not to be closed, although we have a lot of information right now, if there's supplementary and we want to make a decision in closed, then we make that motion when we're in closed to come out. So if you want to leave it stand and presented, that's your motion and we'll vote on it.
Yes.
So, okay, any other comments? But I think everybody,
Hang on, I think Joyce has her hand raised. Unmute yourself, Joyce, and you should. Oh. Okay, hang on.
Okay.
We can hear you now.
Okay, I just have one question, and that is, why would we do it in camera when we already presented it all in public? And wouldn't the discussion be okay in public because it was a public decision?
Yeah, and I can speak to that when we go in as per our practice, where I can speak to that and explain the component of the discussion that is enclosed. There are components of this that we want to address just initially. Ultimately, if council forwards this to come back, it'll come back in public, but there is just an aspect of this that is enclosed that I can't really speak to that right now. So, but I can speak to it when we get to it.
Councilman Gordon?
Yeah.
Well, then we have a motion to accept as presented. I'm going to follow our regular routine that if you feel it's not a closed meeting item, I'll ask whoever doesn't feel it is to bring it out of closed and make the motion. So that'll be on record. And I'll make the motion to accept as you made the motion to accept as presented, and I'll call the vote. All in favor? I'm going to follow our... Opposed?
I can't tell here, but
And that's carried. Or it's defeated.
were you
I'm so used to
in favor or
carrying
opposed?
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
were you in favor or opposed?
I was opposed.
Okay.
Opposed?
Well, then everybody who is listening in camera, then make your motions if we need to come out. That's what I would suggest.
So I'm muting here. Am I taking her volume down? Can you hear me?
Do you want me to make the?
Can you hear me now?
I'm muting myself, so please don't mute.
I'm not, I was turning volume down. You're muting? Okay, then just come
Okay.
back on if you need to say something. I can see you then.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
I move that council approve the agenda as amended.
All right. Any other comments? Call the vote. All in favor? Opposed?
She was opposed last time, so I assume in favor if there's no picture.
Okay, well, it's approved. So we have the adoption of the agenda. Okay, now we have our audit, 2023 audit report. Again, to be presented by MMP partner Melissa Milne. Welcome, Melissa. And I guess, again, I'm going to pass it over to administration for any comments.
I would just like to welcome our auditor, Melissa Milne from MMP, and who will present the audit report, followed by a presentation from myself, Amanda Riley, on the audited financial statements, and then which will then allow council to ask any questions that you may have.
All right, welcome again.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. I will do a very high-level review of our audit findings report. If you have questions, you can certainly ask as I go through. The purpose of the audit findings report is to assist you as members of council in your review of the results of our audits. The status of our audit is essentially complete, with a few outstanding items that will be completed here tonight. So we are ready to issue our report, which you'll see in a moment. There were no deviations from our audit service plan previously presented to you, so we carried out the audit as expected, and there were no limitations placed on the scope or timing of our audit. We formally acknowledge the cooperation and assistance we received from management and town of staff, especially Amanda, we think. And there were no significant matters discussed or subject to correspondence with management that in our judgment needs to be brought to your attention. The accounting policies used by the town are appropriate and have been consistently applied. And there was an adoption of a new public sector accounting standard, 3280, which is asset retirement obligations. And we performed enough testing around that to agree with management's calculations. The disclosures made in the notes appear clear, neutral, and consistent with our understanding of the town. You've got up on your screen the audit report, which is a clean opinion. So there's no qualifications. We basically are stating that the statements are prepared in accordance with public sector accounting standards and that we performed our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. So that's a clean report. And then attached to your appendix is the representation letter, which is a written document of the accounting policies follows, and also our independence stating that MMP is independent of the town and therefore able to carry out the audit for you.
Thank you, Melissa. And so following the report of the clean audit opinion, I am here to present the financial statement, the audited financial statements for 2023. So starting on what is page 1 of the financial statements, our statement of financial position. This statement represents the town's financial assets, things that we own, and financial liabilities, things that we owe at a point in time, which is December 31st, and compares it to the previous year end. The statement expresses 2 key performance measurements, which is the town's ability to finance our operations and the ability to provide future services. So the financial assets for the year totaled about $12.6 million, largely made up of cash and cash equivalents of $9.1 million. Some other substantial assets include trade and other receivables, as well as land held for resale, which we'll talk about further on. Financial liabilities for the year, at the end of the year, were $5.7 million, which included about $929,000 in accounts payable, about roughly $2.5 million in deferred revenue, and just over $2 million of long-term debt. That brings us back down to a net financial asset position of just about $7 million. And then near the bottom of the statement, it represents our non-financial assets. And those show us the investment into our tangible capital assets and other assets that are not quickly transferable into cash. So Overall, when you add those all together, it comes down to our accumulated surplus at December 31st of just over $71 million, which is an increase from last year of 1.9 million. On the following page, page 2 of the financials, it's the statement of operations, showcasing our revenues and expenses for the year. Revenues total about $13 million, and expenses, including amortization, were $13.3 million, bringing us to an excess of revenue over expenses of $172,952. That's basically a result of operating dollars. And then looking at other revenues that we brought in were government transfers for capital, or our government grants, which were invested into our capital assets, of $1.7 million, and bringing us to a total excess of revenue over expenses of $1.9 million. And adding that to last year's accumulated surplus brings us to that 71 million, just over 71 million for the accumulated surplus at the end of 2023. I will not go over the next few statements, because we'll kind of talk about it more in detail in the notes to the financial statements, what the impact of some of these items were in the year. So moving forward to page 8 in the financial statements are the notes to financial statements, and these starting with the significant accounting policies that the town follows, and that's just the various items that the ways that we handle certain items in the financial statements. So new this year is the asset retirement obligation policy, and that's explaining how we treat the new asset retirement section. So flipping forward to page 14 of the financial statements, it's the note on cash and cash equivalents. Although we have $9.1 million in the bank, 8.1 million of that is in the savings accounts, I should say, and that's for the reserve accounts and our grant money. And then in the current account is about $709,000. The town has a line of credit available of $1 million, which the town did not draw on during the year. Turning to the next page, we have note 3, taxes and grants in place of taxes. So this is our taxes receivable balance at December 31st. It has a total of $380,000, and that has come down by about $120,000 compared to 2022. So that is just showing that we have collected a lot of those outstanding taxes that were outstanding at the end of last year end. In note 4, this is our trade and other receivables line item. It breaks down what those trade and other receivables are. It includes grants that are receivable, money from the provincial government specifically that has been allocated to the town, but we have not received at this point. Utilities accounts receivable, GST receivable, and then other receivables, which is made up of those trade receivable items, like things like our fire billable calls, and also other accounts receivable, like for the use of our hockey arena. So note 5 highlights the town does have some loans receivable, and there has been some collection on those throughout the year. On a couple of those, one of the items is not collectible until the land is developed, so that's why there was no movement on that. And then moving on to note 6, it's our land held for resale, which I'll explain a few things here. There were quite a few things that changed in the land held for resale this year. First of all, it was broken out between financial assets and non-financial assets. And that is due to the nature of some of the land. In order for it to be a financial asset, it had to meet certain criteria, including being publicly seen for sale, such as having a sign on the property and having a motion of council approving it to be for sale, as well as a reasonable expectation that the land would sell within a year. So there were a couple pieces of land that were moved to non-financial assets because they didn't meet those criteria. But what remains in the financial asset portion of this is, first of all, actually what moved into the financial assets was the former 5-0 Club located at 2500 15th Avenue. It was disposed of, it was originally in our capital assets, and but it was moved, it was deemed to be a land held for resale at December 31st. So it moved here at the net book value. And then we also have the parcel of land at the former Didsbury High School location, which is the big parcel of land, which remained in this line item. And then we have land in Chance Crossing that also remained in the financial asset section. You can also see the comparison to 2022 to see what items actually existed in 2022 and which ones had moved. So the smaller parcel of land near the former Didsbury High School did not meet the criteria, and it was moved into the non-financial section of the balance sheet. And then 100 Chance Drive, which is a piece of land in Chance Crossing, which also didn't meet that criteria. So a lot of things happened with the land held for resale in 2023. Moving on to note 8 of the financial statements. It's showing deferred revenue, and really what this is, it actually shows the money that we received for our grant money and the revenue that we recognize, which equates to money spent on projects, typically capital projects or operating projects that were approved to be spent with those grant funds. And you can see all the various grants that were received by the town in the year, and if there was any outstanding balances available for future years. Turning the page to note 9 is our long-term debt. As you know, there was no new debt taken on in the year, but we did pay down the debt according to the payment schedules that we have. So that balance reduced by about $563,000. And further down in that note, actually the top of the next page, is the repayment schedule for the next 6 years. And so you can see the payments due, the principal and the interest on those loans for the next 6 years, which at the end of that time period, if we were to take on no new debt, then the entire balance would be paid off. Note 10 is required by Municipal Government Act, and it's the debt limit and debt servicing limit, which is a calculated value based on our revenue for the year. So at December 31st, the town's unused debt limit was $18,143,000, which is up from last year. that represents what room we're allowed to take on in debt according to the Municipal Government Act. And then the debt servicing limit is $2,725,000, which represents those interest and principal payments that we're allowed to have in a year. So those are two rules stipulated by municipal affairs. And as you can see, both of those values have gone up from the prior year. As we pay off more debt limit comes available. So moving on to, actually, I'll just skip over to note, note 11, I'm not skipping. So, this is our equity and tangible capital assets, which takes the costs that we've invested into the assets, less accumulated amortization, and less that long-term debt. So we have equity in TCA of just over 61 million, which forms part of our accumulated surplus. So when you see that revenue generated, the capital grant revenue, it's being invested here into tangible capital assets. And then note 12 shows our accumulated surplus as a whole. So it shows us that equity in TCA, that's part of it, the unrestricted surplus, and the restricted surplus. Restricted is the, you'll probably notice a lot of those line items. Those are council's reserve funds, and council approves transfers in and out of those. These are not all the reserve funds. Let me go back. They're just kind of categories of reserve funds for the most part. But that would total what's in our reserves at December 31st. And then if you look in note 13, the next note, it's just a different view of this same information. And it's all the transactions that went through each of those line items for the year. So in the unrestricted surplus, we pull the excess of revenue over expenses, goes into that, but then it comes out by way of purchases of acquisition of capital and transfers to restricted surplus. And so you can kind of see all the movements that happen in that unrestricted surplus account for the year, bringing you down to your change. The restricted surplus, same thing. You'll see the transfers into your restricted surplus accounts or into your reserve accounts, and less the transfers coming out of the restricted reserve accounts to pay for things that council has approved, like funding different capital assets or different operating projects. And then the transactions in the equity and tangible capital assets accounts are things like purchasing the capital assets, less the amortization expense. Further, now we get into the notes that are kind of the statement of operation notes. So it further details net municipal property taxes, broken out by the type of property taxes that were collected in the year. That's note 14. Note 15 breaks out our government transfers and which levels of government those grants are coming from in the year. And then note 16 is showing expenses by object code, which is just, again, another supplementary information to the statement of operations, just a different way of seeing the same information, and broken out on what it was spent on instead of the service that it was spent on. So note 17 is the salaries and benefits disclosure. This is another note required by the municipal affairs, and it breaks out councils and the CAO's salaries and benefits for the year. And then there's a few other supplementary notes, but I'll bring your attention to note 23, which is the budget note. So you'll notice that the budget does not balance to zero on page 2 of the financial statements, but you all, council passed a balanced budget. That's because the way that the budget's presented is different in the financial statements than it is when you approve it. So note 23 is just reconciling that difference where you can see we were balanced. We started at 0. That's what council approved. And all of these transactions that occurred were not in accordance with public sector accounting standards, so we had to adjust for them, and that's how we got to the negative $235,598, which ties to the budget amount on the statement of operations. So we do operate on a balanced budget. And then finally, note 25, these are draft financial statements, but tonight we're presenting them to council for your approval. So once that's note 25 is saying that you have approved them, of course that'll be after tonight, if you so choose. So if there's any questions, I can take them, or Melissa is here too to address any questions.
Councillor McCoy sent a message during our brief break. Does she want to ask it? I don't. Is she there?
Are you there?
Are there other questions? Councillor Moore?
Maybe just a comment, the amount of interest that you're getting, it's spectacular. You must be a great negotiator. I don't get that kind of rate with the bank, and I used to be one of their directors for 14 years. So good job. I see the interest that you get on some of those accounts, and it is a real benefit. Thank you.
Questions? No? Okay, good.
Okay, hang on. I'll mic you. Well, not you, with the computer.
Okay, my question is directed at, thank you. My question is directed at the auditor. Was there any checks or anything done to see that all expense claims and timesheets were signed off by bosses with that, the appropriate person?
As part of our payroll testing, we do look for approval of timesheets. The expense claim, it would be just if we happen to pick an expense item that was through an expense claim. We didn't do a specific test this year on expense claims, but the...
You've got to mute, just one. You have to mute yourself, Joyce. I can't hear either. There's background noise. Okay.
Should I start over?
Try again.
Yeah.
And speak loud into the microphone.
Okay, for the payroll testing, we do, one of our procedures is to look for authorization of the timesheet, so that is built into the payroll testing, so that we did do. For any expense claims, we didn't do a specific test this year on expense claim testing. If we happened to pick an expense item that was claimed through an expense claim, then we obviously would have looked at it that way, but we didn't do a separate test just on the expense claims. If that's something council would like us to do next year, we can certainly build that into as a procedure next year, but it wasn't a separate one this year. Payroll was though, yes.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
She said thank you.
You know your way, buddy.
Page, on the G-pot amount, I've asked this before. Just explain that to me. Page 15, I think. So, with the government's adjustments again this year, that impact from last year. Can you just overview the GPOT for my information? I don't know if anybody else wants to listen to it, but they're going to have to. So,
Sure, so are you asking about page 22? Oh, page 15?
15, just explain that, how that all plays out.
Okay, so while grants in place of taxes are grants that the government provides for, or the provincial and federal government for buildings they own in municipalities, the provincial government pays, starting, well, this was probably, I don't know, 2020? In 2020, I think, or 2019, one of those years, they stated that they will only pay half of what we send them as taxes for their facilities. So if the amount is $12,000 for taxes for the year, they would only pay $6,000. And that's continued ever since. And then each year we have an amount that we know we'll never collect. We cannot enforce the same rules of selling their property, so we can't go that route. So we actually bring it back to council to approve a write-off of the excess. They have told us we still need to bill them the entire amount, but they will only pay half. That is why you have to go through that process of writing off half of it.
And so the arrears changed over the two, so why would that be?
Well, on page note 3 is actually all taxes and grants in place. So, so it's the balance on all taxes. It's not just those grants in place of taxes.
So where's
the receivable for grants in places of taxes isn't specifically stated on here. You wouldn't be able to see that line item. But you can see the total grants paid, the revenue, on page 22, note 14. It was $15,201, but that's all, that includes federal and provincial grants. And it's the full amount, it's not the amount they paid. If you want more information on that, I can provide that too. It's just not represented.
Yeah, that's okay. I do, but I'll certainly follow up with that, because I think it's a big issue right now in Alberta that we listen to, and it was when it happened and started, and it's not going away, but I'd be interested in where we're at with it, and like every year.
Yeah.
But if that's fine, then I'll just get that information another day. Thank you. Anyone else have questions? Wow. That's easy then for Amanda and Melissa. Just a minute. And I will thank Melissa again. I guess we're not a very inquisitive bunch because we understand it 100%. And we're going to go to university or become an accountant in my next life. Okay, so we do have an item here to thank the representatives. So yes, if you want to go ahead and make that motion, Deputy Mayor.
I move the council thank the representative from MNP LLP for their presentation on the independent auditor's report and presentations of the 2023 audited financial statements.
All right, any other comments? And to Amanda as well for all your answers and presentation. I will call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks again. No snow for your trip home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have item 4, business arising from delegations, the 2023 audited financial statements. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I move the council approve the 2023 audited financial statements as presented.
Any comments, questions? Call the vote, all in favor? That's carried. We have the adoption of the minutes, March 25th, 2024, special council meeting. Councillor Williams?
I do have an amendment to it, so I'll make the motion to adopt the March 25th, 2024 special council meeting minutes as amended. And then my amendment is the page 37, first page of the minutes. Number 3, closed meeting resolution 198-4. Shouldn't that be 198-24?
Really, easy.
Yeah.
You really scour those, eh? Good for you. That's probably true, but good catch. Okay, anything else? Motion to accept is amended. I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. The minutes of the March 26, 2024 regular council meeting. Go ahead, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt the March 26, 2024 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Questions or comments on those? Call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, we have council reports. So before we do anything here, this council reports are bound by council participation in workshops, anything outside of Appendix C, or that's on the page of Appendix C has to be approved by council before people can do that, or councils can do that. So part of my discussion tonight, before we get to the reports, is in there there's a place called Council Professional Development for March, and Luana captures all the upcoming, and we might even capture 2 months worth of stuff, just so if we make this motion, or we make a motion during these reports to accept what people are going to, or approve what they're going to. So if everybody's happy with that, and then we can work closely, or I can, with Luana to make sure that, she'll work closely with council, make sure all their courses are gathered, and put them on here, and then we'll be asked to approve what councillors are asking to go to, or we might not approve it. So if everybody's happy with that process, then we can put another motion on here every week, every meeting, to approve or not approve what councillors are going to. Yes.
So I agree that we should be approving what people are going to. I think on this one, people are at things, and we're being asked to approve it tonight, and they could already be at that function that hasn't been approved by council, and we haven't been approving them, we've been accepting it as information. There's no approval process here, so I agree with you that we need to change this sheet of paper so that we're getting the information prior to someone going to something, so we can actually give it approval. I think that's what you were saying. That's what I want to agree with anyway. That's my understanding.
Yes. Anything else? And it's up to councillors too to be timely. We know there's meetings coming up. Sometimes you might have to wait and wonder if you are going to get approved because you might have registered too late, or you might not be eligible, whatever the case is. So, we have some stuff coming up in April, May, June, so we can get that on there, the stuff we know about, and that's on us really, and changing the council reports process, and I thank Luana for being diligent and capturing everything that she has. And so going forward, we will add an approval process for what councillors are requesting to go to, And that to me, I guess, means that we don't register before the approval's there. And that it needs to apply to all of us, of course. And that we register through Luana, which I don't know if that's in our policy anywhere that we have to contact. Is it? Okay. So we just really need to follow it. Councillor Moore?
There was a list, I don't think it's this year, but it might have been, of things that councillors go to, like the Brownlee Emerging Trends, AMA, and various other things like the, if there's an economic development conference or something like that, and sometimes recreation or, and it was a list of things that have been approved in the past and that we can choose from, maybe ahead of time. I'm just wondering, that might be a different process than something that comes out of the blue and we don't know anything about it. Just wondering if we could maybe get a list like that, and even if we choose not to go, sort of look for pre-approval on things for the year that we'd like to go to. I know that would help me, because I'd be able to plan ahead rather than just at the spur of the moment going, well, I'm going to go to that.
Okay, Luana, maybe you can put up the remuneration policy, because I think, like, PGC dealt with this and it came back in January, I'm looking at it, I can tell you. It came back in January and we approved it, and it certainly isn't as, we had a really thorough one in the last term, and it got kind of chopped up, and now it went back to PGC and came back in January, and they did a lot of work on it. So there's the let's just start per diems and remuneration. And then the next page, well, no, the next page had the Appendix C on it, or Appendix B, sorry. It used to be Appendix C. Just, yeah, it's there in the next page. And it tells everything is claimable on this page if you get approval of council. So,
that's the professional development.
It's not on your next page, it's on my next page, but.
Is it Katie? Do I not have the correct one?
Yeah, so it does, Alberta municipalities and FCM, I think we've agreed that we all can go. But then there's the Appendix B, and if you're, see, we didn't, when we were at the trade show, we didn't make a motion that we are approved to claim for that day, so we can't. And this is a good guide for us to know that if we get the claim, it's we have to get that approval, and whatever's on there is what you have to ask about. So, go ahead.
So those items up there say claimable, but it has to be by motion of council.
Approved by motion of council.
Right. So anything outside of that, we have the existing policy.
Yes. So people, I guess council needs to make a motion on, retroactive and how we're sitting here right now with a situation. I don't want to, I'll get right to it. I don't want to take away, I want to go forward with us being better at what we do. So Ethan, and then Councillor Williams.
The little bit of fuzzy part is just the intent when the committee did that was that also counting was the approval of the budget and council's professional development, because it's not like every little workshop or something you do with your amount that you each get for your professional development needs approval before you do it. It was, I think, the intent when the committee did this was that things outside of the normal kind of municipal type things, like when you go to AB Munis, you don't have a motion to approve going to that. And because the intent was that a motion to approve the budget, which includes your professional development, counts as a motion authorizing you to do that. And so that's just some clarification on that. But the intent was that if things that are outside of normal municipal type things were the types of things that would need to come back for approval.
Well, I think the committee, you guys had the intent, so what?
Well, I think we tried to, thank you, Mayor Hunter. We tried to address this whole thing in a way that would ensure that everybody knew where we stood and where we were on the whole thing. And yes, there was an intent or an initial discussion and an intent for AB munis and things like that. But then that clouds the water because essentially it doesn't follow what the policy says. And so for the ease of not having confusion and not creating confusion, if we just had a motion for whatever we're doing, right top to bottom, then you don't have that issue and you don't have that problem. And part of it, I'm thinking about the people who are trying to look at the timesheets or the remuneration claims and what is claimable and what isn't, and it needs to be cut and dry. And as we said when we brought this forward, if this doesn't work and we need to change it, then it needs to be sent back to us again to have another go at it to clarify. So I think that the way I read that now and the way I think that I was involved in presenting it was that for anything that we're doing, just bring it to council and get a motion. And that follows the policy no matter what it is then. And so even for FCM or for Alberta Muni's Spring Caucus, all of them, I mean, it's not a big deal to bring it forward and get the motion so that those people who want to go to these things can go.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's not very often that we register for something the next day, right? So my interpretation is we would have to, I was using these, when it was accepted as information, we do that a lot of times, that it's kind of given that approval to do what you're doing. So I did talk to the deputy mayor that my interpretation may not be right, but that's what I've been doing, and if we change it to just be accept as or approved to go to these things, that makes a lot of sense. What I find on here is it's still a bit vague on how do you define what's a municipal qualified course. You know, like if you think it's going to help you as a counselor, how do you say to someone that it isn't? But, well, I know, but if it's municipally driven, go ahead.
I was just going to say it should probably be something that helps the community, not the person. Like, it should be a benefit to the community if they're paying for it. That's.
So I guess just a reminder to council that they have to get those motions before they're going anywhere. And I mean, if it's a one-off case, I think council's understanding and fair. And we'll move on from there to add just the as presented. So, yes, or go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I think Councillor Moore brought up a good point because we did have, it wasn't last term, or last year, I think it was the year before that, we had a list. And the whole idea associated with that was that councillors would submit a plan or a professional development plan at the beginning of the year, which would include all those things. And we had a list supplied that you could choose from and had the dates of the conventions and everything. And so maybe it would help to clarify for the policy if we had that included in the policy. And if that is a desire of council, then maybe we need to send this back to policy and governance to have them look at that and see if that couldn't be added to the policy in some capacity.
It's up there. Point one.
Yeah, but I know Luana sent out a list of what was going on that we knew about, right, in the year. So I don't know that we need to change policy for that. I think Luana could just do that. She's good at that stuff. We'll give her more work. Okay, does anybody want it sent back then? Councillor Moore?
No, I don't think I want it sent back, but I do think if it's on that list, we shouldn't need approval to be able to go. We just notify that, like in this format, like if it's already on the list. It already says in the policy that Alberta municipalities is considered the priority event, and people are, it's in the budget, and people are welcome to go. I think the other things that are on the list, if it's something that's unusual or there's a question as to whether it's municipally driven, I think that would be the time when it should come to council for approval.
If in doubt, then bring it forward. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, it can be complicated or simple, I guess. Maybe one more shot at it by policy and governance, just to clean it up so that we know what is approved, and anything that isn't approved needs approval. If we can get that dividing line, if that's what we go back to P&G with, then I would favor doing that.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter, and I would as well, and just for clarification, Alberta Munis is not mentioned in this new version at all. It's not an automatic.
No, well, those are where we've been, but.
Those are.
Okay, so after we all do our reports, we can send it back to PGC.
Yeah. Just to clean it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it isn't in the new one. Maybe munis on the appendix B.
2.2.
2.2 is up there, don't you have 2.2?
I'm looking at it right now on the website.
And I'm looking at it up there.
No, it's changed. It's not 2.2 anymore.
This is professional development policy.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, you're
That makes sense.
Remuneration.
Well, we have both. This one's professional development.
Okay.
That talks about that.
Oh, I see, so you were flipping through that one and I
I was
wasn't.
looking through.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that the committee worked on was remuneration, whereas this is professional development policy.
Probably not all of them.
Do we send them both there?
Yeah, I think just to make sure they sync.
that they're the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
At the end, we'll do that for a motion, but right now, Councillor McCoy, do you want to start with your council report? Do you want to go, Deputy Mayor?
Sure, mine's pretty brief this week. On the 27th, we had NPC, and then on the 27th, we also had a policy and governance, but I won't talk about that now because we're bringing that bylaw hopefully for first reading later tonight. And on the 6th, I attended and worked the Saturday morning shift at the trade show. I thought it might be quiet Saturday morning. I was proved wrong. It was extremely busy. We had one couple that indicated that they had just been to the Innisfail trade show on the Friday evening, and that the Didsbury one was way better. So kudos. Had great conversations with residents. What was the one gentleman that, what was his name that we spent quite a bit of time talking with?
Jerry.
Jerry.
Yeah.
I was hoping Jerry was coming tonight. We encouraged him to be here, but it was a great conversation, and I got very positive feedback from the town. I was really happy with the conversations I had. So I enjoyed it. I'm sure others will have that, because I believe everyone was there. And they probably all have their own stories to share. So that's, it was the quietest 2-week period I've had in a year, probably.
Good for you. Councillor McCoy, ready yet?
Thank you, Mayor. Along with Deputy Mayor, I Along with Deputy Mayor, we had an MPC meeting on Wednesday, the 27th, and also policy governance that same evening. Then on the 28th with Mayor Hunter and Councilor Windsor, we met with the Minister of Transportation. Then I also worked the trade show. I worked the 6th, the morning and the afternoon, and then I worked the 7th as well for I think 3 hours. And it was a great event, well put on by the volunteers in the committee. It was great to get out there and talk again and see a lot of the businesses and organizations that put up booths. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councilor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm going to just add a little bit to that from Councilor Williams, and that is that our meeting with Mr. Dreschen, I think, was very positive and very productive, and I look for great things to come out of that. And I'm certainly, cross fingers, hoping for great things to come out of that. RDR Mug, I have a meeting with WaterSmart and other representatives of the Acadia Group and RDR Mug and the government that is still trying to be scheduled here in the next week. It may have to be the following week, but that's coming up for me. The Water Commission, the meeting is typically on the Wednesday after the council meeting, and it has been delayed to the 15th because of availability of members of the Water Commission. Parkland Regional Library has been really quiet, although I think there is something in my external reports from the Parkland Regional Library. We're anticipating the next meeting later, mid next month, to attack the entire membership agreement. So that's my report. Thank you, Mayor Hunter.
Thank you. Councilor Moore.
Mountain View Seniors Housing, we had board meeting on the 28th with our audited financial statements, which were awesome. Really exciting news. We have new funding finally after years and years of the same or taken away from us. We actually have more funding for our lodges, which should really help with our next financial statements. Also, the asset transfers, we've got an agreement with the provincial government to take over a lot of the provincial housing until it isn't needed anymore, with finances to go with it so that we can maintain them and keep them up. And they promised to continue that, and we made sure that those documents were watertight so that that funding will continue and that we can sell them when we don't need them anymore. Also, I was at the trade fair Sunday afternoon from 1:30 to 5 and had a great time. And Councillor Williams was everywhere. He did so much. He's at 2 different booths, and ours a lot. And so he was very present there. And I finally got my report in on the first part of the municipal audit, spring municipal caucus, and a really interesting named lawyer, Ali Faya Ghulam Hussein, with Brownlee. I said that whole name. She made a statement that council has only one HR situation, and that is with your CAO. All other HR responsibilities belong to the CAO, and she is willing to come to municipalities to explain that further if we'd like. That's my report.
Okay. Congratulations to the,
No,
is she ready? Congratulations to the Didsbury Trade Show Committee. It was a great event. I am going to the EDA, Economic Developers Alberta Conference tomorrow, and we are doing a presentation called, I'll tell you what it's called, Spotlight on Rural Cinema, the Journey of the Mountain View Regional Film Office. And once again, Reeve Albers, Mayor Warnick, me, and the EDOs, John, Alexa, and Christopher will be doing a panel session and just a bit about established, and I'll just give you a brief overview. You can check it out. Established in 2023, this pioneering rural film office, a collaboration between Town of Didsbury, Town of Sundre, and Mountain View County, has successfully capitalized on the film industry for economic diversification, business retention, and tech talent attraction. So it's not just about being film-friendly. From expedited approvals to efficient community communication, they will unpack the extensive work involved in these initiatives. Take advantage of this chance to gain first-hand insights into the world of rural cinema. So it's going to be a great, we did it at Alberta Municipalities last year, so this was a little bit shorter, but we're going to get as much information in as we can in the presentation. So that's what I'll be doing. Well, this week anyway. So thanks, everybody. So we need Councillor McCoy, I don't know if you're ready to do your report. Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mostly my report is based on the reports I put into the agenda, I hope. I haven't done much since the last meeting other than what I'm reporting on, and I found the sessions I went to were very valuable, and it taught me a lot and taught me how to be a better counselor and person. So, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. So we can accept the council reports and information, and we'll do it, the second one to send us. So.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to accept the council reports for April 9th, 2024 as information.
All right, any other comments or questions? Call the vote, all in favor? That's carried. And that we send, are you going to do that? Who's doing that?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'll move that council send the council remuneration policy and the professional development policy to PGC for consideration and for review and recommendation.
Okay. Comments or questions on that? Call the vote, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, we have the CAO report. Anything to add to that, Ethan?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just a couple of quick just updates I got just before the meeting started, that the post office edition is going to be starting this week, as well as next week the Dev 2 commercial development in Chance over there by the grocery store will be starting their foundation work next week.
Yes.
Very exciting. Reading the CIO report, it looks like our new leak detector seems to be earning its keep. It discovered 3 of the 6 leaks that were detected. It didn't discover them, it detected them. So kudos to the leak detector and whoever's operating it in saving water for us, or leaks.
And money.
Okay, sorry, Ethan, I need you to say what you said again, because I was finding my sheets to write.
Sure. The Canada Post, or the Post Office Edition project is starting this week, and the commercial development on the corner there in Chance, just by the grocery store, is going to be starting their foundation work next week.
Great, thanks. Okay. And I see thanks for getting that up about the hospital today. Great to see that. And Greg Poirier said I could tell everybody that they are transitioning to save on food. So that's from him that he gave me permission to say that. So you'll see that change soon. Anyway, so is there anything else about the CO report, Councillor Moore?
Just that I followed the street sweeper around for a while, and they're doing a great job of getting all that gravel and stuff right next to the curb. And also I saw that paving, the infrared paver out, and that's exciting because we do a great job with that when they do that. So I'm really pleased to see the road repair and cleaning and making our town beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Anybody else?
It's
Oh,
noise.
okay, yeah, I thought it was, yeah.
I've heard complaints down in Valarosa that these big vehicles, like heavy-duty trucks, are moving in there to rip up whatever, and the road is being severely damaged. Is the administration aware of that? And what are their plans to deal with it?
Craig is up to address that. Is it?
I'm asking.
Go ahead, Craig.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, so we've got a landowner that's moving in to tend to some trees and such before the bird nesting season gets in full swing. And initially they used Valarosa Drive to access the land. We've since changed that, and they're going to access it through the industrial land access up on the northwest side instead, just to avoid that pavement problem.
Okay. Thanks for that. Did you hear that?
Can I clarify, like, so is there an intent to stop? Like, I have pictures of the road being torn out.
I think if we want more information on that, we can certainly ask for it back. I don't know if Craig wants to get into all the engineering and road work that is being done. I know the town, like any town right now, is in spring. And it's never pretty, but it's same everywhere. Do you agree? Like, it's just spring. And I'm not trying to not get your question answered, but I think we could all pick apart a road right now, and that is not meant to be an insult. That's just that we could bring up something that is on our minds. So if we can, I'm going to leave it at that for now because Craig answered what he could.
I guess I'm going to say that this road wasn't concerned until all these large, heavy-duty vehicles started running up and down it.
Well, I don't know that we could say that's true. And I don't know that we will. But maybe I think that's really the answer you have, or do you have another answer? I don't want to get into the life of a road or anything, or the depth of a road.
I can maybe add just something real quick, might help. So Valarosa Drive, we have experienced failures in the spring historically that we've gone back in and repaired. The segment that has failed, that has noticeably failed, is adjacent to a segment that we have already had a failure at and fixed. So it's like the next logical place for a failure to go. The decision to use the heavy to transport the equipment has been corrected, and so that's no longer happening, and so that's pretty much all I can really say about that. But we do have a number of areas around town that have turned soft, and the asphalt is failing on the surface. So the department is quickly trying to figure out, well, as soon as the snow gets out of the way, we'll figure out what the size of these areas are, and we'll be coming back to council at some point, I'm guessing.
Thank you, that's great, Craig. My question is that I kind of tell them who's doing, like, is it phase 3 people? Is it like the guy up the hill? Like, who's doing the work?
I don't think, Joyce, Councillor McQuaid, I don't think that matters. Like, it's really an operational issue, and thanks to Craig for those answers, and I don't know that we want to call out companies as to who's driving on the roads, but if there's follow-up on that, maybe go through Ethan. So, thanks for those, and thanks, Craig, for the answers. I was gonna say the EDA event too, we're up for 2 awards, and I don't see what they are, but we will be up for 2 awards tomorrow night at the conference. And it's about the Mountain View Regional Film Office, so, and I just want to ask about, there's a lot of community standards, pet bylaw, traffic act issues, and I thank Luke for all his attention to that. And I'm not going to ask, unless Luana can answer, I guess, it's kind of a follow-up question for another time, because 31 community standards, what kinds of things are we looking at, and maybe, what is that? And it seems to be coming to the top of the list. And it's complaint driven, right? Can I ask that, Luana? It's complaint driven according to Luke, so he's busy.
So the majority of our community standards are, during the winter time, it's going to be snow and ice removal. So there were a lot of that, and we have door hangers now where we hang them on, and then he goes back to check if anything's been done, because that door hanger says when you need it done by. And then if it hasn't, that's when so that door hanger is a warning. And then in the summer, we're gonna, of course, get the grass and low-hanging branches, leaves, debris, and some are like unsightly is also in our community standards bylaw, which we are dealing with one right now.
Okay, thanks for that. And I really thank you, Amanda, for the updates, or if it's Lana, I don't know who does it, but on the fire department medical calls, I really appreciate those being in there. And at some point, is there going to be a whole movement? You don't have to answer, but are we going to move forward with collecting the money? But we'll see where that goes. But go ahead if you have something to add to that.
Well, of note, on page 68, notes 1 and 2, there is some money coming from AHS now to address some of these medical calls. So take a look at those notes. I mean, it's not of the same value that we are estimating these calls would be at, but it is a start, I guess.
Well, I did look at those notes because that was my next question. So if we receive those grants in, the budget's obviously going to reflect that. Is it, like, because of this year's grants, or is it in the budget somewhere that's captured, or it's going to be before we?
No, it's not. It's actually not in the budget wasn't adjusted for these. We didn't know about these at the time of setting the budget.
So when would they be into the budget?
Well, it would.
How would we capture them? I mean, that's great that we're getting grants back, absolutely.
Yeah, so the HS medical grant, the training and equipment, has to be spent on certain things. So that would cover the cost of medical supplies that likely would already be budgeted for. So then you would basically have more revenue than you expected and generate a bit of a surplus for that purpose. For the other item, the association or the department's plan with the funding is to train the members on medical related care. So that would, again, it may contribute to like a surplus in the, because there was no, it's basically, it'll become unbudgeted revenue when we do the surplus allocation next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. I think that was all I had. It is. So anything else, Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. On page 67, the Didsbury Fire Department response totals, the alarms. Is that all legit, or are those false alarms, or does it include both?
Well, so if the chief was here, he would say there's no such thing as a false alarm. Because the alarm is just when there's an alarm going off. If it was a fire, it would show up under the fire call.
So it's just,
They're typically what I would call a false alarm.
ghost alert.
Yeah. So either like cause from a shower, steam, setting off the alarm, or cooking, or something of that nature. Yeah. And many of them would like come from the same repeat locations.
And I'm just gonna ask one more because, are these one-time grants for the fire department, Amanda? Like it's just in this budget this year and then we don't anticipate that'll be annual?
Actually, my understanding, I don't know for sure, but the MF, I think it's a continual grant for the equipment one. I can't think of the word, MFR.
Oh, that's okay. It's not handy.
The other one is based on the number of calls attended. And I don't think I asked that question, but I kind of just assumed it would continue. So we'll have to consider that in the future when we're budgeting.
Then we'll tell them that we're just presuming that that's gonna happen, so we'll expect it.
We could
Yeah,
say that.
we can try. Okay, anything else? I'll have a motion then to accept the CO report. Where's the motion? I moved my sheet already. Councillor Moore?
I move that council accept the CAO report as information.
Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. I have item 8.1, 2024 capital and operating budget.
Mayor Hunter, I just have a question about the motion, because it just accept the report as information, and there's an awful lot of information there and a lot of work that went into that, and I'm wondering if there isn't something more that should be acknowledged there, and like it's a pile of numbers to go through and compare.
That's a great idea.
And very thorough,
Yeah. It's really well done.
Yeah.
Well, can we accept it as presented? Because it's all the changes.
Yeah, the changes are all there.
I would like to see, like as presented, that was a lot of work you put into that, and I think it's a great document, and so I would make it as presented.
So, thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'll move that council approves the 2024 capital and operating budget report as presented.
All right. Any questions or comments on it? Great. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? So that, again, Amanda, thank you. And all the pictures that got adjusted and moved and removed, and that was good stuff. So we have item 9.1. I get there.
I know, again, I was...
Bylaw 2024-03 cemetery. And I'm going to ask the chair of that committee if there's any supplementary or information or highlights besides what's in the report.
Well, first of all, I would like to apologize. In my council report, I said we're bringing it for first reading. I think we're actually bringing it for second reading. The update that we did was, I think, related to some comments that were sent back by the Director of Cemeteries, and it's regarding the perpetual care with regards to unexpected damage and vandalism. So it's 6.5 is the only highlighted update that we have, or that we changed, and it's simply that monuments that are damaged or degraded to the point of unsightliness may be removed by the town, and the town will make every reasonable effort to contact the next of kin of the deceased to allow them the opportunity to replace the monument.
Okay, any questions or comments? Councillor Moore?
I appreciate that addition, because that is gonna happen over time, and people get really upset, you know, if they come back and it's gone or all pulled apart. But I do wonder what happens in 100 years when the columbariums are starting to degrade and damage. What then is the plan for sustainability for being able to replace or repair them? What I don't see in this plan, and I did go to the Cochrane one to see, no, actually I didn't go to it directly, I looked for best practices. And our standard plot is 18% of their cost, and the others are like 24%, 37%. And we don't have administration fees, we don't have a marker permit. If they don't put something there, we don't have anything that is going to take care of it 100 years from now. And as much as it might be nice to give everybody a discount at this point, I don't believe that it is sustainable to continue to do that. So I will be voting against this again, because I do think we need a plan for the future, and selling them cheap is not, I believe, a sustainable way to go.
Okay, any other comments? You're gonna make the motion?
Okay, I move the council grant second reading to cemetery bylaw 2024-03.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I guess I should say something about this, and that is that the monuments, 6.5 amendment or addition to this, we struggled with how to word this. We really had a lot of difficulty with this, and I think that we need to acknowledge administration's contribution to getting that wording that it worked all the way around, and because it was a challenge.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Ms. Joyce? Opposed? Okay, it's carried.
And then
Oh,
if there's
yeah, third reading.
third reading, yeah. I move the council grant third and final reading to cemetery bylaw 2024-03.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Call the vote. All in favor? That's carried.
Didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, both hands went up. Like, what?
Won you over.
I guess. Okay, we have 9.2. The 2024 tax rate bylaw 2024-05, first reading. Comments? Deputy Mayor?
Well, yeah, I was just going to make the motion and then send it for review and recommendation so that it's on the docket and we can get looking at it. So I move the council refer tax rate bylaw 2025-05 and the budget at a glance document to Financial Planning Committee for review and recommendation.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Are there two motions?
Oh, yes, there are two.
I just went for the second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do the first one first.
Yeah,
I'll
sorry,
do
I
them in
wasn't
order
looking
so
at
that,
mine. Sorry about that.
that not everyone is confused. I move the council grant first reading to tax rate bylaw 2024-05, a bylaw to establish the rates of taxation for the 2024 taxation year.
Thank you. Now, are there any questions? I just have an observation from when you look at the ratio comparison. that Didsbury's at 1.2, but I think you also have to take a look at tax rates in there. Is it possible to get to a bigger ratio? And more on the average, but those are just my thoughts, and the committee can certainly discuss those, or if it's relative to them, but it seems kind of relative to me, looking at what everybody else has for their splits and their rate, tax, the NRR split. So, that's all I have. And I'd like to thank you again, Amanda, for the scenarios and for the actual scenarios of the tax split are beneficial. Councilor Moore?
Yeah, and since you brought that up, when we're looking at that, remember that Olds has more than double the amount of non-residential percentage of assessment that we do. And so when you're talking about how much each pays, when somebody has double the amount, then easily they can afford to have less of a tax split. Because we charge more for non-residential as well. But if we were going to double the rate so that we could make the same amount as Olds would get, we're not going to have any businesses left. So we need to take into account all of the things that go into a tax split and see what it does to all of them, which I see that we do, that the scenarios are there, and I appreciate all the different ways we can look at it.
Yeah, that was just an observation on my part, and I expect that the FPC will deal with those things, so that was just a comment. I didn't need it to, yeah. I don't need that. Anyway, the motion is there to, I'm going to go to that again, grant first reading of tax rate bylaw. I will call the vote. All in favor? That's carried.
And I move the council refer tax bill rate bylaw 2024-05 and the budget at a glance document to the Financial Planning Committee for review and recommendation.
Didn't you already say that?
I didn't want to sound repetitive.
Okay. Any comments on that? Call the vote then. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving right along. We have, what Craig's been waiting for here, the 10.1 biosolid remove and dispose, cell 1 and 2, award recommendation. Craig's at the hot seat. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Craig, to any of this?
No.
You've made your recommendation there, and anybody want to make the motion? I don't, who made the last motion?
I did.
You did, and then who made the one before that? It doesn't matter to me. You did too.
Okay, he's telling me no. I move that council approve the award of the biosolids remove and dispose contract for cell 1 and 2 to Lambourne Environmental for up to $205,000.
That's great news, coming a little under budget. Any comments or questions for Craig? I'll call the vote then. All in favor? Oh, you had a question?
No.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's fine. Thank you, Mayor Hunter. There's just a significant discrepancy between the bids, and I'm kind of surprised by the breadth of the difference. I'm confident that Craig's got a handle on this, but it's really amazing the difference between the bids, like to the tune of double. I don't know if there's a question in that. It's just a comment.
Yeah, if possible. Yeah, so there is a broad range. We also offered 2 options to be bid. We determined that one option is considerably more costly than the other. Land spreading versus what they call bio bags. So the bio bags require polymer to be added to create the slurry that gets put into a bio bag, and then they have to come back next year and excavate and haul that material away. So the land spreading is a much more economically favorable solution. It's not always available depending on the land in the area, and we didn't want to pick one way or the other, so we let the market tell us.
Thanks. Anything else? Call the vote then, all in favor? That's carried. Is Councillor McQuaid is sticking her hand into this.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, it is you, yeah.
That's my hand jumped up in there.
I always thought it was you sitting to the side.
Sorry.
Okay, 10.2, setting date for an economic development workshop. I guess we need a little information on this to start. Did everybody respond?
Yes. Yes.
So who knows the dates? Or did everybody oh, I see, yes. That's not looking good. No. Wow.
What?
Did you say anything about me that I should be upset about?
What?
Yes, he did, and we'll tell you later. Okay, there isn't, so I guess,
Nothing I'm aware of. I was just raising my hand. She saw it in the screen thinking it was yours.
what I'm gonna suggest is just accept this as information and then let's start over.
Yeah, we can bring
Yeah.
more dates for later in the month. And would any of this change if it was virtual instead of,
No.
would anyone's availability change if it was virtual? Okay.
Yeah, just accept as information.
We think we started.
Yeah.
Councillor Williams,
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move to accept setting the date for the economic development workshop as information.
thank you. I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, the 10.3 Intermunicipal ICC-ICF survey. I just, as you noticed, submitted what we already submitted and then added that libraries must be in there, that we've already talked about. And then I think the more people that talk about Mayor Thorpe motion, I think the better, the more the minister hears the things, and the more repetitive, maybe the more they listen to common themes and common dialogue. Is there anything to add to this? Councillor Moore?
Yeah, I went through it and reviewed it as I was supposed to do before this meeting, and it's multiple choice, and I don't see the answers up there to what we're submitting. Like the first page is just information, and then after that, they talk about the number of things that should be involved and whether it should be reviewed more often or every 5 years, and what base we want to have the cost calculations on. Are we going to do that?
Well, we were supposed to meet, and then we were asked to submit instead, and that's why they're submitted here.
Oh, submit instead?
Well, that was what, with the email.
Okay, so are we supposed to put it in on our own? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
we were supposed to submit it for this.
It said for review here, and that's what I got.
I know, but your email, the email said something, that's okay, we can,
Well, I've got mine here, and I can just give it to you if you want.
yeah, I don't know what to do. That is true, there were some, yeah. I don't know. Do you have time to fill yours out? Does any council member have time to fill theirs out? Yeah, well, we just need it, if you have it into by Monday to me, and then I'll I know administration's doing one too, so I'm thinking that, well, have you done that? Did you do that workshop? Ethan? You had a workshop for CEOs that you were gonna attend, and, I mean, we all should be talking about the same thing, I'm thinking, right? So, yeah. So, yeah, I guess I got off track after I looked at this and thought I'd tell them what we'd like to say. Instead of what we want.
Survey very well.
Well, I didn't take it, I just read it. And then I got off track, which is fine. Anybody that wants to submit it, then do so by Monday, I guess. What's Monday? What's the day, 9/7/16? That's the 15th, so we still have all week. Yeah. Yes?
Councillor, do I understand in the background that the ICC committee we're supposed to look at this and bring back recommendation?
Yes.
And
And then, well, like, the email went out to look at it, and,
Review it and bring it to this meeting.
well, for the agenda item, but that's, it's all interpretation, I guess, so.
so if I may, then I just agree with the submissions, the notes that we have here in red in the background. I agree that we should be submitting those as in support of Marathon as well as the library, inclusion of the library, which we know is not going to go over very well, but I think that those should be submitted as well,
Well, and then
as
final comments.
suggestions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as filling it out, I guess individuals can do that on their own if they choose to.
Yeah,
Or was the idea to have ICF come back with a recommendation for
Well, we were going
a
to submit one
submission
on
for all
behalf
of us?
of
Okay.
our council, and council can decide if they don't like to answer it alone, but it doesn't get us on the right track. But if I send it up to everybody, we can all submit it with the same answers, because that would be more answers that go in.
More answers, probably.
Yeah, so,
And is there a limit on how many?
no, everybody can do it, we were just trying to get more
We're not even
sync.
sure it's tied to.
So really
Everybody
what,
do it wants to.
yeah, it's really what everybody, I mean, the final page is all the comments that these go on, right? As they always do, do you have anything to add?
There doesn't seem to be any place to show that it comes from multiple members either, so I'm
Right.
wondering if we would be better to do it on our own.
Well, and I think, and actually don't submit it to me, submit it to Luana.
Oh.
Ethan, is that, I mean, she could compile it and then we can get it sent back out with, like, the common answers. Whoever has time, submit it by Monday. And we'll just pass it down to Luana. And just submit it and then we'll go from there. And capture those comments on where they always say add what you need to add, or any additional comments.
So that,
And then we'll just take the majority of what council thinks, then we'll send it out to everybody to answer that.
and who will physically submit the survey on behalf of council?
Well, we're all gonna.
So
We're all gonna,
everyone
once we get
physically
the-
do it themselves?
Yes,
They're all-
after we get the same answers,
Okay.
majority answers come back.
We'll also do an administrative of the same answers.
Yeah, yes.
Well, hopefully we come to this issue.
Yeah, so once everything's in, then we'll just, it'll be like our surveys, we'll have 3 the same and 4 not the same, and then we'll pick the majority and go with that. Right. Okay, so what we'll do is to submit council members to submit the survey to Luana by Monday. Don't just the survey, fill it in, submit it to Luana, and then we will distribute it back for everybody to answer by the 19th. Everybody good with that?
Sure.
Did you catch that motion?
Good, yeah.
Council members, direct council, council will fill out the survey, submit to Luana by Monday, and then the responses will come to council to fill in the survey online. And administration as well. Yeah, I got on the wrong track there apparently. But we recovered, so. Who would like to make that motion? Councilor Windsor?
If you read it back.
Okay, moved by Councilor
You
Windsor.
have to say it in my voice.
Yeah, moved by Councilor Windsor. That council submit survey answers to administration by Monday, April 15th with responses to council to fill out the survey online by council administration. Sorry, this is so slashing.
Oh, wait, I thought Bill moved. That's like an echo.
Did you get it? Are you ready to?
Let me say it properly. To submit survey answers to provide, I'm going to say that council provide survey answers to administration by Monday, April 15th, with the responses to go to council to fill out the survey online.
Yeah. And,
by council and administration. I thought it comes.
yeah. Yeah. There's a word there that I was trying to catch.
How about this?
It's good.
We could say, provide survey answers to administration by Monday, April 15th, to be consolidated responses for council to fill out survey online, for council administration to fill out the survey online.
Okay, so everybody, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that part of that too is that I don't think everybody has the survey. I think the ICC committee got it.
Maybe just resend it to everyone.
Yeah.
Just resend it. Nah, send it.
Okay. So we have item 11, correspondence and information.
I can make
Councilor
that
Moore?
motion. Oh,
That's okay, you go ahead.
I move to accept the correspondence provided as information.
All right. Any comments or questions? Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I've reported in previous committee reports that there was some problems with the agreements in terms of the Water Commission and the feeling of the members in the Red Deer Basin. And so I think that, I'm going to find out here on Monday, but I think the tendency or the leaning was that the Water Commission was not going to sign the agreement and was simply going to move forward with our own direction with drought mitigation. And so I'm not sure how that ties into this, but that's kind of the direction the Water Commission is going.
Okay. Yeah, it's just correspondence, so
Yeah.
I won't accept. But thanks for that. And anything else? I will call a vote then. All in favor? That's carried. And then we have council meeting highlights. Councilor McCoy, are you there to highlight anything?
The audited financial statement.
Okay,
Thank
Deputy
you.
Mayor?
I would say the cemetery bylaw. We've been going on that one for quite a while, and there's a lot of tough wording that I've discovered. I thought it wouldn't be that tough, but it turned out it was a lot of work by the committee, and so I am happy to see that one moving along.
I'm going to say 8.1, the 2024 capital and operating budget report. That was really well done by administration. So kudos to them.
Yeah.
Now, see what's with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Councilor Windsor.
Okay, 9.2, and the 24 tax rate bylaw. That's, yeah, we've been at this for a long time. It's nice to be coming to an end to it.
It is. Councillor Moore?
I would say the exciting movement forward on a couple of more developments, that we've got a basement going in addition to the post office. It just, everything that we do to move forward is permanent and helps us to become more successful.
Okay. I was just gonna say it's gonna be great to do that survey again.
You gotta do 10.1.
Well, sure,
Do everything else.
sure.
No, clearly.
Well, I'm glad that Craig has one item off his capital list to worry about. Well, you can still worry about it, but at least you've got the tender gonna be awarded, so. Okay, so, those are the highlights. And Phil, thank you again for being here. You're welcome to ask questions, but I know we just fill your head every night and there's no questions to ask. Thanks for being here. And I'll have a meeting go closed at 7:53. thumbs up?
No, I had pointed at the ceiling.
Okay.
Wait for a second.
She's squinting away? What is she squinting?
Do you want some binoculars?
I got another pair of glasses I can lend you.
We also have to firm up this committee of whole time and this other meeting.
Oh, that's right.
The 4:30.
Yes, that's the other motion we have to make, yeah.
Which can all be under the org planning item, because it counts as org planning, so we could lump that under the org planning item.
5 or 6? 14.5 or 14.6?
14.6,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Good to go? Okay.
Oh,
Okay, I
on
can,
camera.
yeah, I'll move to come out of camera at 9:39.
All in favor?
Yep.
And then I will do 14.1.
14.1, the reservoir preliminary drawings.
Yeah, I move to accept the reservoir preliminary drawings as information.
Call the vote, all in favor? Carried.
I move to accept the draft 2024 scope of work road tender as information.
All in favor? I'm going to introduce them first. 25 and then 2500 15th Avenue update.
I'll move that as, accept as information.
And then 14.4, the final stretch.
Oh, we have to call
Favor,
them.
favor.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
And then the final stretch, council workshop, legal, I'd rather call it contract.
Okay, who's making that? I made the,
That's fine,
Yeah.
legal.
I
Okay,
made
so
the,
direct Mayor Hunter to contact McDonald Associates and accepting the service agreement proposal and to move forward as per the service agreement.
Perfect. Call the vote, all in favor? That's carried.
Happy man.
And the 14.5 confidential evaluations.
Was that, that's me
It's
again, right?
amendments
Yeah.
to those.
Yeah, so move to amend resolutions 201-24, 202-24, 203-24, 204-24, replacing Policy and Governance Committee with Special Purpose Committee.
I'm only consisting of,
It's already in the motion.
Yeah. Good job. Okay, I'll call the vote, all in favor? That's carried. And 14.6, the organizational planning.
Move that Mayor Hunter and Councillor Moore research the possibility of undertaking a corporate review and bring back the information to council.
Okay, that's pretty cool, you're making your motion. That's cool. Thank yourself.
She can recommend herself.
For April 23rd, or whatever that next one.
Okay.
And-
Information to council on April 23rd.
Good, first ring of the show.
Accepted. I'll give it to you.
Call the vote, all in favor? That's carried. And then we have the Wednesday, April 16th, committee of whole meeting.
Tuesday. Tuesday, April 16th.
Or April 16th, 2024, committee of whole meeting be rescheduled to start at 6 p.m.
And,
All in favor?
Who made that? Did you make that?
I did,
So is it a separate
Carried. And then
but I have to talk with Rhonda.
And then at the, we're gonna find that paper. And that, cicada vision?
regional police?
Well, that the town council schedules a meeting to discuss regional policing.
With the committee, isn't it the policing committee?
What's their name?
MNP.
MNP.
With MNP at April 16th at 4:30 p.m.
Virtual.
Virtual, both meetings.
Both virtual.
Call the vote, all in favor? That's carried. A motion to adjourn at 9:43, so Ed can get to Edmonton by midnight.
So won't do that till 1.
Safe travels.
Yeah, drive truck.
Yeah.
Okay,
The roads will just be wet.
did I call the vote to adjourn?
It did.
Um,